and welcome to Swim Chats, a podcast about swimming. I'm Shona Riddell, a writer and swimmer from Wellington, Aotearoa, New Zealand. For each episode, I talk to a different guest from our swim community. Please hit the follow button so you don't miss an episode. You can also leave a 5-star rating or review, which helps other people to discover the podcast. Please consider sharing this episode with a friend or two. And finally, to support the podcast and to help me continue running Swim Chats, you can become a swim buddy for $5 a month on Patreon. To find out more, go to patreon.com/swimchats. There's a link to it in the episode show notes. Welcome to Swim Chats, Corrina. Thank you for your time this evening. It's exciting.
No, thank you for inviting me.
I'm really looking forward to talking about your very long swims, and also pretty much I'm looking forward to talking about all your swims because you've done so many. So we've got a lot to cover. I thought first, because we're in the middle of June, and I know that you're participating in the Big Swim, which is Coast Guard New Zealand's annual fundraiser.
Yes.
So for people who don't know, swimmers can create a page or join a team, and you set your distance for the month, which is like your goal. And then people can pledge money to support you, and that money goes to Coast Guard New Zealand. So do you want to disclose what your distance is for the month?
Well, I was a bit overambitious. I said 150 kilometers. I think that was just to really give me something to aim at.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm on track for just over 100. So I think that's probably more realistic. 150 requires quite a lot more time than I have at the moment. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go for
100.
100 plus. Yeah.
That's a very impressive distance. Maths is not my forte. What's that per day? Is that
Well, I was sort of thinking 25 kilometers a week for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then obviously there are a few more days tacked on as well. So, and I swim 6 times a week. So
do you? I'm looking forward to
6
talking about that.
Yeah, 6 into 25 times however many days.
Yeah.
Minus Mondays when I don't go swimming. That's my rest day from the water.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I think the sums are adding up because I am now well over 50 kilometers in. So
well
that's
done.
good. Yeah.
That's really exciting. Well, going from that right back to the beginning, so rewinding through your whole life. When did you first start swimming? Have you always been a swimmer?
Yes, I started having swimming lessons when I was a little tot, a toddler at the Boys and Girls Institute in Tasman Street, which is now no longer there. And that was where I started having swimming lessons. And then when the aquatic centre opened in Kilbirnie, I started going there. That was when I was about 6, I think. And yeah, so I had a lot of swimming lessons, and then I didn't join a swimming club until I think I was nearly 10. Because I remember I used to watch the swim squads and I thought, oh, that looks quite scary. There's a lot of fast swimming and diving, and possibly because I think when I was there, it was always when the senior squads were swimming and they all looked very grown up. But then when I met some other people closer to my own age, I thought, oh, I can probably manage that. So yeah, and then I joined a swim club when I was 9, 10. Yeah.
And were you at that stage? Were you sort of showing an early talent for speed or a particular stroke, or just doing it for the love? Or
I don't think I showed any special aptitude for anything really, but I did enjoy it, and I think the great thing was at that early stage was just acquiring new skills. So going from I think they used to call it advanced improvers, was the top level of the swim school system, which is now Swimwell. It was a bit different back then. But I think at that point when you did those swimming lessons, you didn't really learn. You mainly learned how to do freestyle and some backstroke. Butterfly didn't really come into it. Breaststroke, not so much. We certainly hadn't really done much, or maybe some dives I think we had done, but no tumble turns. So when I joined the swim club and my squad, that was where we learnt a lot of those skills quite quickly. And I was soon competent in all four strokes, plus
Yeah.
tumble turns and dives. And yeah, so I think at that stage it's just fun to, you know, learn or consolidate your basic skills and then, you
Yeah.
know, learn all the rules for racing. And yeah, and then my first swim meet was, I think it was the Raumati 11 and unders in the old pool by the beach at Raumati. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I did manage to win a bronze medal in the 50 meters breaststroke and
Wow.
a
Well
new
done.
pair of togs as a spot prize. So it was a great introduction to a not particularly illustrious racing career as a as an age group swimmer, but yeah.
And what was your sort of progression from the pool to the open water? When did
Uh,
that happen?
well, it took quite a long time. I finished with club swimming when I was 16, 17, because by then I was doing a lot of music and the two didn't really fit together that well in the schedule. And so that, yeah, I mean, I hadn't really done any open water swimming as such at all at that point. I think I had done the Weet-Bix triathlon a couple of times at Scorching Bay, which was in the sea. And I think the first time we did that, I was with a couple of other swimmers that I was in the swimming at Capital with. And I think we decided that the course was a little too short in the sea at the triathlon, so we all took off and missed the turning buoy and were sort of heading towards, you know, the Cook Strait. And people on the beach were flagging us down and telling us to turn right and come back
That's like
into the school.
a
It
preview of
was,
what was to
yes,
come. Yeah.
we were heading off to have an adventure. Yeah, so I hadn't really, you know, open water wasn't really a thing that I did as such. And then if we fast forward a large number of years, because then I lived overseas from 2005 until 2016. And then when I came back, I found some people to, you know, who were, well, I was swimming with a triathlon club and they did open water sessions. And yeah, and I did those and then found Wellington Ocean Swimmers. And yeah, and that really. It was the beginning of the open water thing.
And were you at that point, did it sort of feel like you'd discovered this sort of part of yourself, or was it quite a challenge to get going, you know, to sort of get more confident in the open water? Like what was that
Oh,
like?
yeah. Yes, definitely. I think the first few swims I did with the tri club, the conditions were very nice because triathletes like nice conditions. So we, you know, it was a light southerly and the sea was very flat and it was very easy to see where you were going. We could see all the marker buoys and we could see the lighthouse and we swam to the lighthouse in small increments between the buoys. And I thought, well, that's pretty good. And then one day we went for a swim when it was a strong northerly, which is obviously a very different situation at Freiburg with very vertical waves. And yeah, that was definitely quite overwhelming. There's so much stimulation and going up and down and just, you know, working out how to swim in those conditions. So that was definitely a moment of, yeah, being in a not really in my comfort zone, but off we all went. So you know, you just have to deal with it,
Yeah.
and that's what happens. So,
And
yeah,
so
and
how did you go from that to 2021, which was when you were swimming the Cook Strait? Like what was the journey from beginning of open water to becoming a marathon swimmer?
well, I fell into company with other people who were doing long swims
Yeah.
and did, you know, a lot of swimming with them when they were training for their swims. And I didn't really have any great thoughts of doing anything on that scale myself. In 2019, I did the Chopper Swim, which was a fundraiser for the Westpac rescue helicopter in Auckland, which was from Waiheke Island into Auckland City, which is 20 kilometres. And I knew about 3 people who had done it before, and I thought, well, I'll have a go. And I was really I was well prepared training wise. I didn't really know what it would feel like to swim 20 kilometres, but I thought, well, we'll start and see what happens.
Yeah.
And of course, it was the conditions up there are quite congenial. The water is a nice, 19, 20 degrees, and we had the tide behind us. And I had a great kayaker who I met on the day called Philip McGrath, who is a very, very good kayaker. He had just done the coast to coast a couple of weeks earlier, so he knew his stuff kayaking wise. He didn't really believe that anyone could swim 20 kilometres. He thought it seemed an outrageous thing. So he said, "Well, it's lucky we've got the big boat, because if you get tired, we can stop." And I didn't really have any intention of stopping. And so off we went. And he was amazing. I mean, obviously he had a lot of experience with endurance events, because he had done Ironman I think he had done several Ironman races himself and several coast to coast races. So he knew a lot about the sort of um, potential struggles you can have along the way in a long event. And he just paddled along and was very encouraging. And every time we stopped for a feed every half hour, he'd just say, "Oh, you're doing so well, keep going." And then he worked out some ways to try and make me go faster. He found that if he gave me a 3-minute warning before my feed, I'd suddenly start swimming faster. So that's sort of,
Motivation.
I know, yeah, it was great
Yeah.
motivation. So yeah, and we cruised along, and then we ended up at Mechanics Bay, which was the end. So that was pretty good. I think it was a very gentle introduction to swimming that distance, because it was so warm and there was no trouble with the current. Nothing was unfriendly. It
Yeah.
was all very helpful. And yeah, so wasn't quite like the Cook Strait, which is a bit of a different environment compared
Yes.
with Auckland. Um, yeah, so that was how I started, and I thought, well, I've done that once. I'll probably do that a few more times, and that will be that. That would be sort of my limit. Because yeah, I thought anything else was you know seemed monumental and probably impossible. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
but how things changed.
yes,
Things
that's right.
changed.
Things have changed, and you
Mm,
have a really great blog. I've read some of the entries. It's called Goggles at Dawn,
yes.
and you've done some really great write ups of your big swims.
Mm,
Everything that sort of, well, maybe not everything, but a lot that happened. So in the lead up, and then during,
mm,
and then after, and it really sort of paints a picture of what it's like actually doing these big swims. And so, with your permission, I'll link to that in the show,
oh, sure.
so
Yeah.
people can read and get more detail. So with the Cook Strait swim,
Mm,
you started the swim, your first swim of the Cook Strait in March,
yes.
with your friend Rebecca, who's also
Yeah.
a Wellington swimmer.
Mm.
Are you happy to talk a bit about that
Oh,
swim?
sure. Yes. Yeah. So that one, we came up with the idea uh, in I suppose, the third quarter of 2020, because obviously 2020 was an unusual year. And, for part of the time we weren't allowed to go in the water. And then when we could go back in the water, it was very exciting. And I think probably, yeah, in 2020, I did, just because it was so exciting to be able to swim again after a period of deprivation, did a lot of swimming. And then we were initially scheduled to do our crossing in early February, around Waitangi Day, but then the weather wasn't very helpful. So we were sort of, delayed and then delayed and delayed, and had a couple of false alarms when we thought we could swim, but again, it would get too windy. And then, we had our date towards the end of March, and it started off very well for me, and it was sort of rolling along, I thought, quite well. And obviously, it was not rolling along for me quite as well as it should have been. And at a certain point, it was clear that my wheels were coming off in a major way. Not that I was aware of that, of course. I thought I was doing just fine. And the conditions, I mean, it started off a pretty good day. We had a lovely swell, and it was sunny and there wasn't too much wind. It was really beautiful water to swim in. I was just swimming along thinking, oh, this is gorgeous. It's so blue and so clear and deep, and it's just magic. And then we had some dolphins, and that was just unbelievable. And at a certain point after that, I think the wind started to get up and it was quite choppy. It was much harder to swim. And of course, at that stage, we were heading north, kind of parallel with the South Island rather than heading towards it. And there's a significant portion of swimming that I can't remember. That was obviously just, well, I don't know what I was doing. Probably I was being very annoying. Well, I was being very annoying for poor Rebecca, who was trying to swim in a straight line while I was weaving all over the place. And then at a certain point, it was getting quite dark, and I thought, oh, this is quite dramatic. And then I remember Phil was yelling at me to swim in a straight line or he'd pull me out. And I thought, well, this is ridiculous. I'm swimming very well. I don't know what he's talking about. And then shortly after that, I believe I thought, oh, I think I should get out now. So I swam up to the IRB and said, oh, I need to get out. And can't really remember anything after that for some time. But so that was quite a thing.
Yeah.
I think he
And
was very relieved that I had decided that I needed to call it a day, because that meant he didn't have to haul me out against my will.
yeah.
And so that was that adventure. It was quite grueling. I think actually the recovery was more grueling um, than the experience I'd had in the water.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, when we got back to Wellington and I had, warmed up and become sane again, I thought, well, that's probably the end of that. I probably shouldn't do that again because I'm clearly not cut out for that kind of activity. Um, and I think, well, a lot of people said, oh, you must be terribly disappointed that you didn't make it across. And I thought, well, really, I'm actually quite happy I'm still in the land of the living, because it was a bit iffy getting
Yeah.
that cold.
And
It's not
also
a
that swim you were halfway across, right? When you got out, or more than halfway across.
yeah, more than halfway. Yeah, a lot more than. Well, of course, we were sort of more than halfway across for a very long time, but we were kind of going in the wrong direction. That was
Yeah,
the problem. So I swam quite a long way.
you did.
On
More
a
than
better
most
day, we
people.
would have on a better day we would have been there a lot sooner. But that's just what happens there. So I thought, well, that's that, and I did what I could, and it didn't really work out, but never mind. And then about a month later, I was training at Freiburg and talking to Philip Rush about this and that and the other, and he said, well, we really can't leave it like that. We have to do this again. And I thought, oh well, if he says we have to do it again, we have to do it again. So um and
It sounds like,
if
yeah, I was
anyone
going to
reads
say
the blog, oh,
his confidence in you would be a strong motivator.
yes, well, I have to say I was surprised. I thought he would think, no, we're not taking her anywhere near that water ever again. But so we sat down and talked about, what he had seen had gone wrong and what had surprised him. and what had not surprised him and what had surprised me, and all that sort of thing. And we agreed that probably I needed to eat a lot more while I was swimming, or at least have a lot more calories. And we worked out a plan for having hot drinks the whole way through the swim, and sort of the most calorie, carb laden snacks every half hour that I could work out how to, prepare and eat. And yeah, so that's what we did. And I did a lot of training, and then in December 2021 we had a few good days coming up, a bit sooner than I'd anticipated. I thought we were probably going to aim at January, but it was good weather, and I'd done a 6-hour training swim, so I was, sort of ready. Um, Not really ready in my mind, but ready enough. And so off we went, and it was all fine. I mean, it wasn't nearly as great a day from a weather perspective. When we started, it was pretty rough and rugged, and I thought, oh, we're probably not even going to get out of the boat, but we did, and off we went, and everything was fine. Yeah,
Cool.
and
And
we got to the other side and went in a much more direct route as well,
yeah,
which was helpful.
yay. And
Mm,
congratulations. And so
thank you.
you did two Cook Straight swims in 2021, really, if you think of it like that.
Yeah, well, kind of
And
1 3/4 maybe, one and
yeah.
2/3. I saw
And
a lot
so,
of the water anyway.
yeah, yeah. And
Yes.
for the second swim, so did it feel like your adjusted sort of feeding plan made a big difference?
Oh, yes, certainly.
Yeah.
I did quite a lot of not very scientific research, and I thought, well, everyone seems to say that you need this much carbohydrate and you need this many calories every half hour. And then I worked out what I would like to eat that would be easy to eat, because it is quite tricky eating in the Cook Strait. There's an awful lot of water action going on around you. And of course, you have to eat quickly, because if you're hanging around chewing on things, you will start to drift off in the wrong direction, which
Right.
we didn't want. So it's important that you can eat fast. So I made up these little pouches of mashed banana and maple syrup and almond butter. The almond butter wasn't particularly successful, it was a bit sticky, but the banana and maple syrup and lemon juice was a really nice combination. And I also had some, what else did I have? I had some other things. It's in the blog. And I had, all my drinks were hot, and they had a lot of tailwind and pure electrolyte powder in them. So the drinks were also quite nourishing.
Yeah.
And yeah, and off we went, and it all worked very well. It was nice to eat, and I enjoyed eating it,
Yeah.
and it kept me going. And then I think finally on my penultimate feed, I had my treat, which was half a Snickers bar and some flat Coca-Cola, and that was pretty magical and nice change. And yeah, and then we were there. So I definitely recommend the hot drink
Yeah.
solution to um
Warming up the core temperature.
yeah, just keeping your, because then your stomach stays nice and warm without having to work on it itself. So that takes some of the pressure off.
Yeah. I really
Yeah.
liked on your blog how you were about a kilometre out from the South Island, about to finish your huge swim, and you started thinking about the ferry pass that you were about to earn.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
because so for people who don't know, is at the Inter-Islander, if you
Yes. Yeah.
swim across the Cook Strait, then you get a lifetime of free trips that you don't
Yes.
have to pay for
Yes.
the ferry anymore.
Mm.
Yeah, so this is something I've never asked, but have you redeemed your free trip? Um,
No, I haven't. I
cool.
haven't. I really should, because it would be quite good to go on a day trip to Picton. I just have to send them an email with a picture of my certificate and my chart, I think, to show that I've done it,
Yeah,
and then they will send me my
your
my
ticket.
freedom of the ferries pass back.
Freedom as
Yeah,
well. I like
I'm
that.
not sure why I haven't done it yet. I think I've just been busy. It's kind of slipped
Yeah.
my
Well, you've
mind,
been
but
busy doing other big swims.
well, yes, yes, and I haven't really had the opportunity to zoom off to Picton for the day,
Yeah.
so I should do that. Yeah.
One question I had was, you know, obviously when you're doing a very long swim and you're that swim that we've just been talking about, the December swim of the Cook Strait,
Mm,
your time was 9 hours, 15 minutes and 4 seconds.
yes.
I think that's right. It's a long time to be in your own head. Do you, while you're swimming, are you thinking about things that to sort of distract you from the fact that you're doing a very long swim, or more things to focus you during the swim, if that makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I what I've found, and it has changed a bit now that I've done more long swims, but I think initially I would find the first, 2 and a bit hours quite hard going in my head. And then suddenly you sort of or I would click into a different state of mind, and then you just, that's what you're doing for the day, so you just keep on swimming. Um, People have lots of different strategies for dealing with that. They say, just swim from feed to feed. It's only 30 minutes, so that's not very long to keep swimming. But you do, I find, and especially in the Cook Strait, because there was a lot of water action. There were a lot of waves and chop, and I was getting bumped into the IRB, and sometimes it would be quite hard to breathe because every time I breathed, a wave would land in my mouth, and it was quite hard to find a rhythm at times. So I feel for me that I do really have to concentrate on what I'm doing in order to swim well. I can't just turn off my brain. So what I tend to do is just start counting my strokes. And initially I count up to 200. And after a certain number of hours, I would say around 6 hours, it gets quite hard counting all the way to 200. So then I cut down to just counting to 100, which is manageable. And then by way of variation, sometimes I count down from 100 to 1 just to check that my brain is still working. Some, cognitive tests along the way.
Yeah.
And then I will, just for fun, start playing around with the numbers in my head a little bit. Maybe sing a little song that has numbers in it. I'm not sure, but really, I think if I'm counting, that means that I'm, concentrating on my stroke and trying to swim well and maintain a good rhythm, not get slower. And that seems to work quite well. And then after a certain amount of time, I'm counting with one part of my brain, but then another part of my brain is thinking about other stuff. Little thoughts pop into your head and you mull them over for a while, and then they off, and another little thought comes along. And then before you know it, someone is shaking a snack and a drink bottle at you from the side of the IRB, and it's time for a snack. So yeah, that's how I roll along,
Yeah.
and yeah,
I liked we in 2023 you swam across the Fovo Strait, which is the body of water between the bottom of the South Island and
yes,
Rakiura, Stewart
yeah,
Island. And so when I was reading your blog post about that, you said you were swimming along and thinking about doing a well executed swim. And then you were
yes,
thinking about what that means to you. And I like
mm,
that, and imagining that you had sort of almost like a string that was pulling you along.
mm, yes. Well, a while ago, probably 2017 or 18, I went to this very interesting talk all about the ocean-going navigators in Micronesia, I think, and they do a lot of paddling around over, between islands over huge distances of, around 30 to 50 kilometers, I suppose. And they have uh, songs that are specific to paddling or ocean going, wayfaring, navigating. And one of the themes that I think I may be misremembering this, but I think this is the gist of it, is that they, rather than trying to find where they're going, they feel that they are already connected with the destination and are just kind of being reeled in towards it. So it's not so much a case of chasing where you're going, but you're already there and you just have to be pulled towards it, which to me seemed to make perfect sense.
Yeah.
And so I think for for that swim where the conditions were very, very good. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything better. Well, things could always be better, but they definitely could have been much worse. So I had a pretty good day. And I just thought, well, there's a reel connected to Rakiura, and it's just, and it's also joined onto my head, and it's just pulling me towards the island as I count to 200 a lot. And yes, as you say, I thought this would be a good swim to, really uh, execute it very well in a number of different ways. So to, for example, make sure that all my feeds were, very efficient. I didn't waste any time eating or drinking, in a sort of slow and luxurious way. That I always kept swimming as fast as I could in the conditions, and that I never sort of felt any negative, well, I don't think it's possible to do these things without having any negative thoughts. That would be weird. But to acknowledge negative thoughts when they popped into my head and deal with them and move on. And that actually worked. It worked very well. I mean, some things did crop up along the way. There was one bit where I thought, "Oh, I'm really quite cold. That's not a good sign. We're too early on in the process to be cold." So I thought, well, I'll just keep on going until my next feed, and if I'm cold when we have that, I will let someone know. And in fact, once I had thought about it, it kind of went away, and I wasn't cold anymore. So a similar thing happened a bit further on. My right wrist was suddenly very sore, and when I had a feed stop, I said, "Oh, my wrist is hurting." And in the boat, they said, "Oh, that's fine. At your next stop, we'll give you some ibuprofen." And I thought, "Okay." And the next stop, I had some ibuprofen, and that, you know, took that away, partly, but, at least enough to be able to keep on going without being in unpleasant discomfort. So, yeah, we just rolled from feed to feed, and I always knew where we were up to. We were at 7 hours and then 7.5 and 8, and, yeah, so it all unfolded very nicely.
It's amazing. It just sounds like such a good way of sort of processing your own thoughts and
Mm,
and sort of managing them along the way rather than letting
mm.
them overwhelm you.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, well, I was lucky that day because the conditions were so good. There wasn't really any adversity to contend with. I could really focus entirely on what I was doing and making sure that my stroke stayed, you know, smooth and even and strong, because I wasn't compensating for weird waves and, being thrown around. So that did make a big difference. Yeah.
And you
And although
mentioned,
I, mm.
oh, sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right. That was another thought, but it can wait.
Uh,
Well, as you were.
I was just going to say, you mentioned, you're starting to feel a bit cold, and you were
Mm,
swimming in April, so
yes.
very late in the season.
Mm.
What was the temperature of the water? Do you remember?
I think it was, uh, 15 was the official temperature.
Yeah.
I would say there were some bits that were definitely a bit cooler than 15, but, overall, it was pretty stable. As you say, April was quite late to be doing it, but that was really the first swimmable window that we had. And it was a very short window because, in fact, by the time we had got back to Bluff and had dinner and gone to bed and everything, I woke up at about 1 a.m. and a huge gale just hit the side of the um, place we were staying. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's quite windy. So when it's windy down there, it's really windy.
Yeah.
So we were very, very lucky because, in fact, the day before, the 31st of March when we arrived, there was a strong southerly blowing, and then it all just dropped away for that day, and then it came back. And when we took off from Invercargill Airport and could just see over the strait, it was pretty wild.
Mm.
So
It's the
it was,
roaring 40s, right? It's
well, yes,
yeah.
yeah,
And
and
not
it really did roar. Because I remember the problem is after these swims, you're quite tired, but it's also really hard to sleep. So
yeah.
you sort of fall asleep, thinking, "Oh, this is great," and then wake up a few hours later and everything hurts a lot. And I was very thirsty and sort of, you know, tottering around the house trying to find water and, stretch my arms and, you know, cough a little bit. And yeah, then I hopped back into bed and this huge storm arrived, just like well, it was really like an earthquake, but it was a storm. Yeah,
Gosh, you must have been relieved it didn't arrive when you were out in the in the Fofo
very
Strait.
much so. Yes.
Not many people
Yeah.
have swum across the Fofo Strait. I think you were the 15th
I was 15th.
on
Yes.
record, yeah. And you were the first person this century to swim from the mainland to the island.
Yes.
And is
Yes.
that just because of the direction of wind sort of at the time? Is that how it worked
Yeah.
out that way?
Yes. I think we had been planning that we would start on Rakiura and swim towards the mainland because that's what everyone had done in recent times. But, time was running out to be able to do it. And then we had this little weather window, and John, who's the boat skipper down there, he had been talking to Phil, and he said, "Well, if she's happy to swim to the island, it will be perfect because that's the way that the wind is blowing, and that's the way the tide will work." So that was the option, and I said, "Well, sure, let's do it," and we did. So it was fine. And, I have to say, the island is much bigger than I thought it was because I hadn't really realized how huge it is. So when we started off, I thought, "Oh, that's not too far away," and then I realized actually it was a very long way away, and it's a big island. But, yeah, we just, gradually got closer to it.
Yeah. Well, that I haven't done a swim anywhere close to that distance, but the only thing I can sort of compare it to is I've been on a ship sailing across the Southern Ocean, and there are
Mm,
times when there's been no land in sight, and it's very humbling, just
mm,
being surrounded by the sea, and you really get a feel of the scale of the ocean. And is
mm.
is it does it feel that way when you're swimming as well, across a large body of water? Is it quite a
Yes,
humbling
yeah,
experience?
yes. I think in the as I said, the Cook Strait, it's a very dynamic stretch of water. There's a lot going on, and it's very deep in parts. It's very, very deep.
Yeah.
I think I swam over some bits that were more than 300 meters deep, which is a long way down.
I can't even
And
imagine that depth, yeah.
no, no, I tried not to imagine it. It was it's too much water down there. But I think in that depth of water, you get a very strong feeling that it's a very mighty force underneath you and, lifting you up and moving you around, with quite a lot of determination. Uh, and there's just a lot happening. I think the Fovo Strait, it's much shallower, and which is why it is harder to find a good day to swim across because it's shallow, and if you get a wind against tide situation, it's not very nice. Very steep waves. So that was a different feeling. But again, even with water that's 30 meters deep, you still get this feeling that there's a lot of force around you underneath. And and also, it is the connection again between two huge bodies of water. So it's quite an exciting place to be, just to be out in the middle of it,
Yeah.
heading towards this island. So I hadn't realized until last year. I was reading a little bit about the charting of the coastline, which you probably know a lot more about. But I think
Don't know.
when James Cook was sailing down the side of the South Island, and he glanced across, and he actually thought that Rakiura was joined onto the mainland.
Yeah.
He didn't know that there was any water in between. I think he probably could have gone and taken a closer look, but he's obviously had other things on his mind. And it took quite a long time before another European, um, mariner, I suppose, sailor, had a closer look and thought, "Oh, there's a huge piece of water in between," which doesn't say much for the quality of their attention, really.
Yeah.
But,
I actually have a great book. It's about maps around the world, but it's maps
mm,
that were sort of plotted incorrectly or
yes,
yeah, it's
yes,
fantastic.
there was quite a glaring oversight.
Yeah.
Especially as it was a very well used piece of water, because there was a lot in there to fish and, very important. But anyway, that's, that bit of history. So, yeah, it is quite, and I suppose also in Cook Strait, because you're in this, conduit again between two huge oceans, and they're both trying to get through a small gap. You definitely feel the entire, uh, majesty of the sea, I
Yeah.
would say.
Nice
Yeah.
way that's a nice way to put
Yes.
it, yeah. And you've also swum across Lake Taupo, haven't you?
Yes. Yes.
Was that a couple of years ago now?
Yes, that would have been this, 2024, February the 13th, I think. Yeah, 2024. Yeah, that was a very different experience. I hadn't done really any long swims in fresh water before that, although I had been across the lake with other people swimming a lot. Um, I'd done, oh, yeah, quite a few, because I was on the crew for Rebecca's double crossing in 2022, and 3 more single crossings before that, so I had been up the lake several times.
Yeah.
And yes, I think it was very good to have observed so many other people doing it, because I could see the bits where they were having a good time and the bits where they were having less of a good time.
Yeah.
And in such a big swim, to me, that was quite useful, because it meant that I could think about, what happens when I get to this point and am not really feeling that overjoyed about the situation anymore.
Yeah.
How will I deal with it?
And it's about a 40-kilometer swim, isn't it?
Yeah,
Across
40,
the lake.
40.2. So
And
it's
so, yeah, were the less enjoyable parts for people or the more challenging parts just sort of as the swim progressed and they struggled with the distance, or was it more there was sort of change in the
There
sort
are, I
of
mean, typically the conditions do get better as the day goes on, so that's nice. That doesn't happen 100% of the time, of course. Things can change and the wind can get up. I think the bit that's traditionally the the section of the swim that is difficult for people is the third quarter. So the first half takes you past the island, and then there's a sort of, roughly a 10 kilometre stretch from there to the point when you start coming into, approaching Acacia Bay, and then getting into the finish. And I think everyone who I went on the swim with said that bit was long, because getting to the island is, that's great. You think, well, I've done half of it now, but then of course there's a lot more to go.
yeah,
So I was very conscious that that was going to be a hard section. But in fact, for me, I found I think even within the first sort of 5 or 6 kilometers, because we started very early in the morning, it was still dark. And when the sun starts to come up, that changes the temperature, obviously, on the surface of the water, and the water does get a bit choppy. And I think I found the combination of the dark. I mean, I've swum in the sea in the dark a lot here, so that wasn't the problem. But it was a very different feeling in the lake, because there's no extra buoyancy from the salt. So all the chop felt like it was sort of burying me under the water. It was quite
Mm.
arduous for a while, and I thought, "Oh, if it's like this the whole way, this is going to be terrible." Um, but I did say to the people in the IRB, I said, "Well, it feels like I'm being buried." And they said, "Well, you're not." So, okay,
All right then, carry
fine.
on.
I'm not being buried. And a little while later, I had a feed stop, and I said, "Oh," I said, "for some reason, my legs are going very tingly. I've never felt that before." I was quite concerned that I was about to have a heart attack or a stroke or something because they'd never tingled like that. And Phil just said, "Well, maybe if you tried using your legs a little bit, maybe they'd stop tingling." So I thought, "Oh, okay, fine." So I did use them a little bit, and in fact, the tingling disappeared. Yeah, and so then we, kept swimming, and I was quite surprised at how soon we were past the island. I was trying very hard not to look around when I had a feed stop. I just looked at the IRB, and so I wouldn't get, you know, um, discouraged by seeing that I was still a long way away. And actually, even looking to the west of the lake, there are plenty of attractive bits of scenery to see, so that was fine. And then I think after a certain amount of time, I decided to take my goggles off during one feed just to give my eyes a little rest from being squished. And I did a 360-degree turn in the lake, and I thought, oh, we're past the island. That's great. And in fact, I think the bit from the island until the point was almost my favorite part because I could see the trees. There are trees on the point, but for a while they're just a sort of green blur, and then you can tell they're trees, and then you can see they're individual trees, and then yeah. So I found that bit quite exciting. And in fact, once we were in through the bay, the wind got up a bit and it was a bit choppy, so that was less fun. Yeah, so actually that I think from preparing myself for that third quarter potentially being very difficult, it was in fact quite good fun. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's amazing. And so completing that swim would have given you the New Zealand Triple Crown as well?
Yes, it
Yeah.
did. Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So that was also a bonus. I mean, I wasn't really doing it for that reason, but I felt that I couldn't really call myself a marathon swimmer unless I had done that swim. So that was why I did it, and I was very happy that I did. It was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty. I think finishing that one is quite special
Yeah.
because you get to land on a beach instead of on a sharp rock, so
Right.
that's fun,
More
and
comfortable.
yeah, it was more comfortable, yes, and, we had, just by chance, one of the washing machines, Mark, was on the beach when we arrived, and that was amazing. I did think I was hallucinating or it was someone else. There he was. So, yeah, so the bunch of us, we sat there and had an ice cream and, yeah,
Celebration.
yeah, yes, because
Oh,
I
that's
had
wonderful.
yeah.
And then the following year, you did a circumnavigation swim of Rangitoto Island. Is that right?
Yes.
In Auckland. So
Yes.
what
Yeah.
what made you decide to do that swim next?
Well, I thought there would be several advantages to it. One, it would be nice and warm because the sea in Auckland is warm. And two, it would be nice to swim around something.
Mhm.
And I had also done the swim that was then run by the Auckland Masters from Rangitoto to St Heliers Beach a couple of times. And I've always, I think I've always just really liked looking at Rangitoto from the shore because it is amazing. And also when I did that chopper swim, we spent a very long time swimming past it. I hadn't realized quite how large it is. So it took a long time to pass by. So yeah, and quite a few other people had gone around, had done the circumnavigation, and yeah, so logistically, it's a very straightforward swim to do. I did it with the swimscape people from Auckland, and they set everything up very nicely. And compared with the logistics for, especially for FOVO, it was yeah much easier to get off the ground,
Yeah.
and I did it in I was initially supposed to do it in March, but then I got a, sort of cold virus thing, the day that before I was supposed to fly up there, and I thought, "Oh, this isn't going to work. I don't want to do this sick because it won't be much fun."
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we had to have a bit of a delay, and then there were some weather problems, but then finally the first week of May, there was good weather again, just for one quite short window, so up I went, and, yeah, we had a great time. Well, I had a great time. I hope the crew had a good time.
I bet they did.
Mm,
Oh, cool. Well,
mm.
earlier you were talking about, sort of a typical week of swimming for you tends to be 6 days a week. And I know that you're in a couple of pool squads.
Yes.
So how much time do you spend swimming alone? Like, do you also enjoy going to the pool by yourself, and do you go with a set program? Like, how does that side of things work for you?
Yes. So I do, sort of 3 or 4 squad sessions a week. I do 2 with Timon Wilkinson and the Bonobo squad, and I do, 2 with Philip Rush's squad, 1 or 2 with his squad as well on Wednesday and Sunday. Um, Sometimes on Sunday morning, I get seduced by nice conditions outside, so I go out in the sea instead, but, yeah, I do that pretty regularly again now. So that's four, 3 or 4 pool swims a week. Generally, if I am building up to doing a big swim, then I would do a couple more afternoon swims by myself in the pool, and or sometimes even 3. I think before I did Lake Taupo, I was doing 3 afternoon swims as well as the mornings, and then some longer ones in the weekend, in the sea or in the pool. So yeah, but I mean, I do like to make a program and go to the pool by myself and just work through it and see what happens. And sometimes it's easier than other times, but I try always to stick to the program I've laid out, even if it's not very pleasant, and try to make it a bit longer or harder if it's going well. And if it's not going so well, then I just do what I've written on the page and leave it at that. But yeah, sometimes it does go very well, so I do a bit extra. Um, yeah, so I think, yeah, I like to swim by myself sometimes, but also doing squad sessions is good because there are other people around,
Yeah.
and there are some people to draft off a little bit, which is great, and try and keep up with,
Yeah.
and that is good motivation. And I think also it's very important. Well, I sort of said this with regard to FOVO, but I think it is important with swimming to concentrate on what one is doing, and that just helps to swim better. So I feel that if I do an hour where I'm really thinking about what I'm doing and thinking about, how fast I'm going, or, could I go a bit faster, making sure that all my interval times are as consistent as I can hold them, push them, but try to hold them always. That just makes for better swimming. And then when I'm outside, I try and do that as well.
And with your technique, are there sort of areas that you work on, parts of the stroke that you find challenging?
Yes,
Anything like that? Yeah.
yes. My right arm is always a problem. It's just generally it's a problem. Um, so I'm left-handed, and I tend to
Oh,
always breathe on the to the
yeah.
left.
Me too.
Oh, great. It's good to always
I
good to
can
meet
relate. I'm
another
also a
one.
left
Yes.
breather.
Yes. So, yeah, so if I don't think about what my right arm is doing, it does its own thing a little bit and doesn't pull quite as cleanly as it should, and it wobbles around a little bit at the front. So that does require some attention. So quite often, if I'm doing some swimming on my own, um, I will put in one session a week where I just really work on technique for most of the session and do lots of drills, and kicking on my side and just sort of gradually building up small elements of the drill into the whole stroke.
Yeah.
And if I'm doing that on my own, I don't have to worry about getting in anyone's way, or if I'm doing a drill and think, "Oh, I could make that a little bit better," then I can do a few more laps of that drill just to kind of solidify it a bit more.
Yeah.
And that's quite good for just recalibrating the mind and the body and making sure that it knows what it's doing.
Yeah. I
Mm,
completely relate. Yep.
mm.
And you mentioned that you're more a left breather. So do you sort of how many sort of strokes do you take before you take a breath? Does it depend on the day, or do you tend to
Uh,
stick to
no,
one
I tend
pattern?
to breathe every second stroke on my left.
Yeah.
That's what I do. If I'm out in the open water and I try to breathe to the right, I just start going around in circles. It's
Yeah.
not very successful. And in the pool, I always just breathe to the left. And if we're doing, I don't know, if we're doing 50-meter fast sprinty stuff, I try to breathe a little less, so maybe every 4 strokes, but then after a while that stops working because you need oxygen. And, yeah, so that's pretty much what I do. Um, for the last little while, oh, nearly a couple of years now, I have been swimming with Mary Fisher out in the sea, um, guiding for her, and we have well, pretty much until very recently, Mary always went on my left, so she had the tether around her right leg, and I had it clipped onto my toe float belt on my left side. And I don't know why we just started off like that, but that's what we did. And also, it meant that when I was breathing, I could see her,
Yeah.
which was reassuring because then I'd know that Mary was there.
Yeah, you're still tethered.
Yeah, we're still tethered. I mean, most of the time we're very aware that we're tethered because the water is moving us and we can feel the tether on her leg or on my belt. But every so often, especially if the water was very flat and we're both moving along, at the same distance apart from each other, I'd suddenly look round and think, "Oh, here's Mary," and oh, she's there. That's good. But just well, the other thing we found is that both of us seem to have a stronger left arm. So if Mary is on my left and we both have a stronger left arm than right, it meant that we kind of veered to the left a little bit. And we often found that when we were, say, heading out towards the lighthouse, we would just drift a long way, to the left, and then would have to come back in again. And what that was doing is it was kind of tiring out my right arm because then my right arm was trying to steer us back on course. So we did a few swims a couple of months ago where Mary went on my right-hand side, and it felt very, very weird for both of us. But it did actually still work really well once we got over the weirdness. So we thought it's probably a good idea to be able to swim on both sides of each other.
Yeah,
So,
that
yeah,
makes
and it
sense.
did take a little bit of the pressure off my right arm. So that was an interesting experiment
Yeah, and
based on
observation.
observation. Yeah.
It's, bilateral swimming. Learning to
Yes,
swim on both sides of each
exactly.
other.
Yes. Yeah.
That's cool. One question I had is, we all, well, most of us want to be faster.
Mm.
Be faster as swimmers. If you could give, from your years of experience, if you could give people a piece of advice on how to be faster in the water, is there a tip that you would give?
Hmm. That's a very good question. I mean, this is just for me. What I've found is that I think everyone has a sort of weekly amount of swimming where they're at their, I'm not sure, I don't know if peak is the right word, that's the wrong word, but sort of feeling at their best.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I worked out for me that for me to feel good doing say in the pool, if we do a 400-meter time swim or a 100-meter time swim, obviously there's quite a difference between those. In order for me to feel that I'm doing well at that, I have to be swimming about 24 kilometers a week. And that's where I'm in a good a good state
Yeah.
for doing that. Um, so I'm absolutely not suggesting that anyone else has to swim 24 kilometers a week, because that is a bit much. So, but I think it's good to try and work out, how much am I swimming? Where do I feel at my best? So, you know, s- um, and I think it's not really to do with strength or fitness as well. It is, but it's more to do with how you feel in the water and how you're getting on with the water. Because for me, anyway, it's a matter of cooperation with the water, and the
Yeah.
time that I'm cooperating with it the best is when I can swim the fastest for me, with the least
Yeah.
amount of horrific struggle. So,
Yeah.
yes, because quite often there is horrific struggle. So I think maybe, just finding a point where you are feeling good in the water. And I think if you're feeling good and are swimming evenly and, without getting too puffed out, although that's also something that happens to everyone, that's a point where you'll be feeling, getting faster. Because I think really the way to get faster is, it is to swim more, but also to swim more in a productive way, rather than just swimming a ton and hoping that something will work. I think you
Yeah.
have to be sort of swimming a lot, but working always towards that, getting a bit faster. And probably my other great tip is just always, spending some time on technique every week, and just really thinking about how your hand is going into the water and also how your hand is coming out of the water. And could you make your stroke a bit longer at the back? That sort of thing. Quite often, tiny changes make quite a big difference.
Yeah.
So, yeah, finding the right amount of swimming where you feel good in the water, and also thinking about technique.
That's a great answer. Thank you. And I was going to ask, when you're training for a big swim, how do you measure your progress? Is it in terms of distance in the open water, getting to a certain distance, a certain percentage of what the full swim will be? Or again, is it more how you're feeling?
I think what I did for um what I did for FOVO and also for Topol was thinking, well, I need to be able to swim the certain, I have to be able to swim 40 kilometers in a day. So I need to do a couple of weeks of swimming where I swim 50 kilometers, because that's quite a lot more, and that will make me very tired, and that will be a good preparation for only having to swim 40 kilometers. So that will feel good in comparison. So for that, I worked out I think a 2-month timetable where I plotted out what distance I wanted to swim every week for those 2 months beforehand. And it sort of built up, and then it went down a little bit, and then built up a bit more, and then had a sort of recovery week, and then the two big week. I think I did a 50 and a 45. I didn't do two 50s, but that was quite a lot of swimming. And I did make sure that all of it was, uh, a lot of it was in the pool, doing, interval sets and things to make sure that I was still moving at the right pace. But that did mean that when I went out into the sea for a long swim, say to do Freiburg to Hataitai Beach and back, I did feel very good, and that didn't feel like a horrifically long distance.
Yeah.
So yeah, careful planning, I think, is what I like to do, and
Yeah.
just always keeping track of how fast I'm going. And I mean, in the sea, it's a bit different because the conditions affect your pace, obviously. But in the pool, just always making sure that I was kind of on target where I wanted to be.
And do you measure that with the pace clock in the pool? Or,
Yes, yeah,
yeah.
with the pace clock, and I have a swim watch as well, so I can keep track of absolutely everything all
Yeah.
the time. Which is, I mean, sometimes it can be a bit much, especially if I feel that I'm not doing very well on a particular day, because I keep looking at the times and thinking, "Oh, that's slow. Oh, that's slow. That's terrible." But on a day when it's going well, then it's good. And I think I've been swimming now in team on squad since late 2017 or early 2018, which is quite a while now.
Mm.
And I've found he's been really good at saying, if he wants us to do something which is our best effort, he says, "This is your best effort on the day that you have today," which might be different to your best effort 2 days ago or in 2 days' time, but you just have to do what feels like your best effort today.
Yeah.
And I think that's been very helpful for me to focus on, what I can do today, which might not be quite as good as a couple of days earlier, but,
Yeah.
you know
And there can be so many variables, can't there? It can be about how much sleep you've had, what you've had to
Yes.
eat,
Yeah.
stress, life stress, just other things
Yeah.
going on. Yeah.
Yes. And I think quite often you sort of feel, well, I've felt that I'm really well prepared for something, and then when it actually comes to doing it, it hasn't gone very well at all. And I think, "Oh, that's a bit disappointing," because I was feeling, really on top of things. And then another day, say if we're going to do, an 800-meter time swim, I arrive and I think, "Oh, this is going to be dreadful. I don't feel good. I'm tired, and I probably should have had more to eat before I arrived, and my arm hurts, and I don't really want to do this." And then it goes really, really well. So, I'm not really sure that how you feel on any given day is a very good indication of what you might be capable of on that
Yeah.
day. So,
Yeah.
mm,
That's a really good point. And I know
yeah,
that one thing you're training for at the moment is the ice swimming championships,
yes,
which are coming up in
yes,
July. Uh,
mm,
so we've talked about the ice swimming a few times on the podcast. We've had
mm,
Susan Sherwin come
yeah,
on, and so ice swimming is below 5 degrees Celsius. And you last weekend, I know you did a training swim where you were in the sea for, was it about 5 kilometres, or
yes, yeah,
in
yeah,
slightly choppy sort of Wellington northerly conditions.
yes, yes,
So I know that you sort of acclimatise in colder temperatures to
mm,
prepare. How do you, like, I want to say, how do you not get hypothermia? But that sounds too blunt. It's like, how do you, do you sort of drink warm drinks as you're swimming? Like, how do you
yes.
take care
So,
of your,
yeah, so what I decided a few years when I first went to do it in 2020, oh, 2023 was the first time I went to ice swimming in St Bathans, and I had entered for the 500 meters and the 1 kilometer and the mile. And I thought, well, this is going to be very cold, and at some point it's going to be very miserable and difficult because I had swum in when I still lived in London. I swam in an outdoor pool, unheated in winter, so I knew what the cold water felt like. And I thought, well, this is going to be hard. And of course, in Wellington, we can't really replicate the temperatures because it won't get cold enough before July. So my thinking was that if I did a 2 hour swim when the water is about 12 degrees, by the time I've done an hour and a half, I will be quite cold. And the idea is to keep on, swimming as strongly as I can and at a good consistent pace. So as I get colder, I just keep on going at that pace or as close as I can do. Because that means that when I'm in the ice water, I'll be in for a much shorter time, but obviously the experience will be much more intense. So it's just a matter of keeping on trying to maintain a good pace and not sort of fall into despondency and panic. So so really my 2 hour swims are just an exercise and not becoming despondent. And how I've done it for the last 3 years is I've done a lighthouse loop, come back into the beach, had a hot drink, and then done loops around out to the second buoy and around the fountain and back to the beach, and then had another hot drink and just filled up the 2 hours that way.
oh,
And that seems to work really well. So I was hoping to do that on Saturday, but the conditions were not that nice. It was quite choppy and there was no sun. And I think I came into the beach at about I'd done about an hour and a half, and I thought, I really don't want to go out for another lap. I've done 5 kilometers, that's fine for now, and stopped because it does make it does make a difference if you've got no sun shining on you.
It really does make a
It
huge
really
difference.
does, yeah, and the northerly was quite chilly. But
Yeah.
I see that this Saturday it's going to be a southerly and should be quite nice, so I'm going to have another go and just see if I can get through the 2 hours. In terms of not getting hypothermia, I think that's very much an individual thing, and at the ice swimming events, people have a sort of widely different tolerance for the cold, and I think you can mitigate that to a certain extent, but not always. Some people come out of their mile and they're chatting and able to dress themselves at least partly, and other people don't come out in quite that lively a state, but I mean they've still done the swim, so that's the important thing. And then the thing is that warming up isn't particularly pleasant, but you will get through it, and then you'll be back to normal again. So yeah, but I think for the training swims, definitely the hot drinks are the key for me, because if they keep my insides warm, it's a bit less work for my body to do that myself.
And mentally, are you having a similar thought process to when you're doing a very long swim in terms of are you counting your strokes to sort of
Yes.
focus the mind? You're
Yeah.
doing the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I pretty much do that. I find now for everything, I just count, and that's very useful for staying on track and staying, being relatively cheerful in the mind, and yeah, just keeping on going. Yeah. So when I was doing ice swimming last year, at St Bathans, I did a kilometer, and then I did 2 kilometers, and I just counted my strokes the whole way through. And yeah, and before I knew it, I'd finished, which was great.
2 kilometers, that's amazing. That's the extreme ice mile?
That was
Is
the
that right?
extreme, yes.
Yeah.
So I think actually the anticipation was far worse than doing it. Because before I did it, I thought, "Oh, why have I decided to do this stupid thing?" And I was quite tempted just to run away somewhere, but that wasn't an option. So I just started, and actually, once I was in the water, everything was fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's incredible. Oh, we haven't talked about your day job.
Oh, my
'Cause,
day job. Oh
swimming, you're not a full-time swimmer.
no, I'm not. No, no.
So you're a librarian, and I
Yes,
bring that up because lately you've been organising sea panels, sort of sea
yes,
talks at the library.
yeah,
And so the first one was authors who write about swimming, and so
yes,
that was a lot of fun, and I was on that panel. And then
yes,
your second panel, I think, was sort of marine conservation people talking
yes. It
about.
was. It was. Yeah. It
That's
was
right.
called that one was called Oceans of the Mind.
Yeah.
And we had Una Cruikshank, who's an author who's written an amazing book, The Phonic Cycle, which has quite a lot in it about the sea and the wonders and majesty of the ocean. And we had our harbour master, Grant Nalder, who you've talked to on the podcast, and
He's
he
great.
had some great stories of things that have happened in and around the harbour. And we had Dr. Nicola Miller, who's the seaweed expert, who had great perspectives on seaweed conservation and just how we think about sea conservation and looking after species that are down there. So it was quite different from the one in November that we did with the three authors. But yeah, they've both been really good to do, and we need to think up some more oceanic topics. I have to say, I didn't come up with the concept for either of those. My very clever colleague, Neil, did a lot of the devising, because he's got a great gift for putting these events together. But
Yeah.
I'm very, very grateful that he has let me. Uh, I'm not sure, what do I do? Facilitate, compare,
Yeah.
MC,
MC.
yes,
Yeah.
host, yeah. because it's just been amazing to talk to all these people and hear their different perspectives
Yeah.
on their experiences in and on and under the water. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, the feedback I've had from people is that they're really fun, interesting, sort of positive events, that it's something
Yes.
that brings swimmers and people who love the sea together. So
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that there might be more of them.
I hope so. We need to think of a few more unifying themes
Mm.
and find some more people to
I'll put
come
my
and
thinking
talk
cap
with us.
on. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. If you have any suggestions, please let us
I
know.
will
'Cause
email them through.
yes.
In relation to that,
Mm.
so you're a librarian, you're also a musician. You play
Yes.
the cello, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And
Yeah. So
I mentioned that because
I'm
oh, sorry. Yeah.
I'm not really. I'm not. Well, I always say this. People say, "Oh, you're a librarian." In fact, I don't have any qualifications to be a librarian whatsoever. But I do work in the library, and I work, in a public-facing library role, and so
Yeah.
people do say that I'm a librarian. But I
Yeah.
think if I was in America and I tried to call myself a librarian, the professional body would be very upset about that. But
Oh,
I
no,
don't
you're
have the
definitely a
relevant
librarian.
certificates, but no. But, yeah, I do work in the public library, and it's been
Yeah.
wasn't really where I was expecting to be working, but I have been there now for 4 years, and it's going quite well, so yeah,
Awesome.
especially doing
No.
these events now, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that would be fun. And I was
Mm,
going to ask, with your work in the library and your music
mm.
and your swimming, are they sort of a Venn diagram that is there overlap between them, or are they more just three completely separate things that you
Um,
do?
well, I think everything informs something else to a certain extent, and I think where we are very lucky at Wellington City Libraries, people who are in my job, we have quite a lot of free rein to, say, put up displays about things and to get involved with events. So I've been able to do um, quite a lot of displays about musical things. So I do a display every year for the Orchestra Wellington subscription series, just books and materials that are related to that. Of course, displays related to things like Sea Week and ocean conservation. And at the moment, I'm involved with this really great series that we're doing with Orchestra Wellington and the New Zealand String Quartet and the New Zealand School of Music, which is called Between the Lines, and it's a musical book club. So we have music and we have a sort of suggested reading list that goes along with each program, and it's a free event, and lots of people can come to it and have a great musical and literary experience. So yeah, absolutely, it is a Venn diagram situation.
That's a great idea. It's given me
Mm.
the idea for a swimming book club, books about
Yes,
swimming.
yes,
There are so
yeah,
many.
yeah. Well, actually, that's a good idea for a future event. We should have a swimming book club. And the great thing is between the washing machines and the ocean swimmers and barb swimmers, we have a kind of captive audience.
Exactly.
So that would be great.
There's no
We
shortage
should
of
do it.
people.
Yeah.
I noticed that on your Instagram page, your
Mm.
profile description reads music and swimming in inhospitable conditions.
Yes.
And I enjoyed that. And so I wanted to ask what to you is inhospitable, because I know you have your excitement scale for
Oh,
swimming.
yes. Yes. Well, I think the conditions are often inhospitable, but that doesn't mean that they're not fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so the greater the excitement scale, the better, really. But I think I find the more inhospitable the conditions, the more fun it is. Which isn't to say that it's lovely to swim on a, beautiful calm day in a light southerly with sun. But I think a little while ago, someone came up with the expression that every day is perfect for something. And I think that kind of sums up swimming in the sea in Wellington. Some days are perfect for having a riotous time in the waves, and other days are perfect for, doing a really long swim and in, very idyllic conditions. So it's just a matter of matching the activity to the situation.
Yeah. That's a great way to describe it. I was wondering, or curious, I suppose, if you've ever been frightened in open water, because you seem like a very calm person that even in maybe, like you say, sort of turbulent conditions or
Mm,
boisterous waves, you're
yes.
having a great time.
Mm.
Do you ever, I don't know, sort of have the fight or flight? That's
Oh, yes. Yeah,
response you do.
absolutely. Yeah. Quite often I'm swimming along and think, "Oh, what was that?" Just have a momentary, panic, and then think, "Oh, no, it was just my hand that I saw out the corner of my eye," or something like that. But I think also
That's happened to me too.
yeah, yeah, and I think sometimes, you're swimming and it might be a very calm day, and it just feels so calm that it's a bit eerie and a bit, spooky. And then other times I've been swimming and it's been quite rough, and I've suddenly thought, "Oh, maybe this wasn't a great decision today, but we'll just, make our way back to the beach and it should be fine." But I mean, given what the sea is like, I think it's actually quite healthy to be a little bit scared of it. I think
Yeah,
if we're not, then we're becoming complacent, and I think it's not good to be complacent in the water, but especially in the sea.
yeah,
Just to, always be mindful of how we're feeling. Are we cold? Are we tired? Are we just not feeling great?
yeah,
And, matching our activities to how we're feeling at the time. So I think yeah, I think actually that's quite an important message to get to people, that it's okay to feel a bit scared or a bit um, edgy in the water. That's fine.
yeah.
Excuse me.
And yeah, and to be prepared, right?
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
so many different conditions.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you. So you've been so generous with your time tonight,
Oh, that's all
Corrina.
right.
Thank
No,
you.
it's
We've
a
been talking
pleasure.
for a good hour and a half, but
Uh,
as you can tell, I had so many questions for you about all aspects of your swimming, from
mm,
your pool practice to your your ultra marathon swims. It's all just really fascinating how much you've accomplished, and all the different things you've learned over that time
yes.
as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's actually, for me, that's one of the most significant parts, especially of the open water swimming, is just after each swim thinking, "Well, what have I learned?
Yeah,
What's happening out here?" And there's always something new going on, and something to learn, and a new experience to have, which is a pretty lucky thing to be able to do, to be able to have, in our lives. I think it's quite a privilege that we get to do this, so I
yeah,
try to look on the bright side of things. Yeah.
yeah. That's awesome. Well, yeah, thank you again. And is there anything you want to mention that I haven't already asked you about?
No, I think we've covered everything.
We've covered every aspect of swimming.
We have, yes, we've left no stone unturned, so it's yeah. Thank you very much for your questions as well. I've really enjoyed those.
Oh, I'm really glad. Yeah,
Mm.
well, I'm sure I'll be seeing you probably around Freiburg Beach having coffee
Yes,
at the kiosk, and yeah,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
good luck with the ice swimming champs and
Thank you.
your
Thank you.
training.
Yeah. Thank you very much for inviting me to be on the podcast.
Oh, it's an honour and a pleasure. Thanks for listening to Swim Chats. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend or two. Also remember to hit follow to be notified when I post new episodes. To help other people discover the podcast, you can rate and review it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. If you're a regular listener, please visit patreon.com/swimchats to support the pod. Enjoy the water, and we'll see you next time.